I'm Beth Ridley, CEO of the Brimful Life consulting firm. I'm a leadership expert and workplace culture consultant. So I work with leaders and their leadership teams to foster a positive, inclusive culture and behaviors in the workforce to better support business outcomes and to create an environment where all employees can thrive. So when I'm working with my clients in this environment, this next normal that we're entering, it's really defined by change, ambiguity, a lot of uncertainty, stress, and emotion in the workplace. And so for leaders to lead effectively in this kind of environment, they really need resilience, they need to have an inclusive mindset, and also a growth mindset so that they can navigate these changes and help employees be their best, even in times of uncertainty. So I call those three leadership skills the next normal leadership skills. So resiliency, inclusive behaviors, and a growth mindset. And so when I'm working with my clients in terms of like how to develop and demonstrate these three skills, there are really 5 questions that I ask them to reflect on. So here are the 5 questions. So the first question I ask my clients to reflect on is, where is your thin place? Now, if you've never heard that term before, thin place is basically a place that is so beautiful. It's that thin place between heaven and earth. And my thin place, for example, is this little slice of the lakefront at Big Bay, which is near my house, and it's very quiet. People don't often go there, and I try to get there early in the morning to see the sun come up. And so places that are so beautiful, especially places of nature, they really help us to reflect and recharge and really develop a sense of gratitude and positivity. So all of these emotions are really, really, really important in terms of feeding and fueling our resilience. And resiliency is really critical, especially in this environment where you don't always have control over the things around you. And there could be a lot of unexpected change. And sometimes the best leader is simply that leader that does not freak out amidst change. And so a resilient mindset is really important for that. So knowing where your thin place is and being able to visit your thin place often is really, really critical to boosting resilience. And when you are leading with resilience, you are able to be more positive and inspire people and bring out the best in everyone, even in difficult circumstances. So the second question that I ask leaders to reflect on is, who is not in your personal social circle? So let me explain. So in these challenging times, leaders are really looking for creative ideas and solutions to overcome challenges, even to maybe find opportunities that are in crisis. And in order to do that, you need to be able to embrace diverse perspectives, diverse ideas, and also bridge differences so that you can bring out the best in everyone and really harness diversity as a differentiator for better decision making. So that means you need to lead with an inclusive mindset. And so a lot of leaders are like, well, where do I start? I want to do that, but how do I start? So I say start by looking in your own personal social circles. Because if you look in your own social circles and identify maybe who you don't hang out with, who you don't invite over for dinner, that would be a good indication of maybe where you have implicit biases or stereotypes that are worth addressing. And part of being an inclusive leader is being able to replace biases and stereotypes with empathy and understanding. And the best way to do that is simply to broaden your data points around the human experience. And that means hanging out with more humans, and especially people who are diverse and different from you. Because when you're able to do that and get a better appreciation for other perspectives, you develop that muscle to be able to embrace and respect different perspectives and understand and learn from them, even if you don't agree. So I think that's really important to be able to seek to understand, not necessarily to agree. And getting to know people, building relationships with diverse people is a great way to do that. Building diverse relationships basically makes you more empathetic, more informed, more thoughtful, quite frankly, more interesting. And those are all qualities of a great leader. One of the challenges that my clients express to me is that it's really, really hard to keep employees motivated during these challenging times, right? A lot of people are stressed out. There's just like a lot of distractions that are happening to them outside of work that they're bringing into work. And so the question is, how do you motivate and inspire people during challenging times? So the question that I ask them to reflect on every time they walk into a meeting is, why does this meeting matter? Now, this question is important because one of the best ways to bring out the best in everyone is to help them feel a sense of connection between their work and higher purpose and meaning. So when people feel a sense of purpose and meaning and really understand and appreciate how their work connects to the bigger picture, that really inspires higher engagement and a deeper sense of accountability. So I always recommend every time you walk into a meeting and before you kick it off, spend 30 seconds to articulate why the meeting matters. In your own words, how does this meeting add up or support or align to the bigger picture, the higher purpose of the organization's vision, mission, or values? Simply spending 30 seconds to do that is really important, and it will stand out because it never happens. How many times do we just walk into meetings and we assume everybody knows what the meeting's about, and we never remind people or ground them into truly why the meeting matters? So that 30 seconds, I can assure you, if you do that and you articulate why the meeting matters after you reflect on the answer yourself, you'll definitely have a better meeting, a more engaged meeting. Now, if you ask that question, why does this meeting matter, and you don't have an answer, that would be a good indication that you probably shouldn't have the meeting, and that'll be appreciated too. I know that in these challenging times where social and racial injustice and inequality is really top of mind, leaders are really thinking, what is my role in this? How do I lead authentically? What do I even say? Should I say anything? So these topics are really challenging leaders to push themselves outside their comfort zones, maybe having uncomfortable conversations that they've never had to have before. And so when leaders are looking for the courage to do that, the question I ask them to reflect on is, are you acting like a kid? And usually when I say that, they're like, huh? No, that's the point. I don't want to act like a kid. I want to act like I have my act together. But that's actually the problem. So, you know, when I say, are you acting like a kid, it means that kids have this ability to look at failure as learning and not take themselves so seriously that they're afraid to try new things and potentially fail in front of other people. Because really, courage and trying new things and stepping outside of your comfort zone and being brave to take that step, even if that step is just a conversation, it means that you have to try, potentially fail, learn, adapt, and try again. So I like to say that success is really nothing more than continuing to fail with enthusiasm. But unfortunately, as adults, we get overly self-conscious. We're so worried about failing in front of other people and embarrassing ourselves. So when you think about kids, they just are wired differently, right? They look at failure as part of the process of learning, and they have fun with it. I watch my own son, who's 10, learn how to do a backflip on the trampoline. So for weeks, he would go out there and he'd flop, he'd land sideways, and he wasn't doing it right, but he didn't care. He was having fun. He was playing. And eventually, you know, he did it over and over and again, and he was able to nail it. So I think adults, we'd be better off in terms of mustering courage to do things if we gave ourselves permission to act like a kid. And that means view trying as playing. Being able to laugh at our mistakes or just recognize that mistakes are okay, and being able to pick yourself up and learn from them, but also have a healthy disregard for what other people think and not be so consumed that people are going to judge us. I think people will judge you very favorably if they see you trying and stepping outside of your comfort zone rather than if you didn't try at all. So I've given you 4 questions that as a leader you should ask yourself to be more resilient, to be more of an inclusive leader, and have a growth mindset so that you can be your best at work during these challenging times, so that you can also encourage your employees to be their best as well. But my last question is the question that you should ask everyone else around you, and that is, ask, how are you? How are you is the single most important question that you can ask, especially this year. And that's because there is so much going on, whether it's the coronavirus pandemic, economic concerns, and racial inequalities. We are not immune from all of these things that are happening around us. We bring that into the workplace. We may not show it, and most people don't show it because they are professionals, but they're feeling it. And there is a lot of stress and anxiety. And one of the topics that I talked about a lot before coronavirus was around burnout and how to effectively manage burnout, because burnout was the original pandemic before coronavirus, with 79% of employees suffering from some form of burnout. And that situation is only increasing now with all of the other things that are going on in people's lives outside of work, that they're inevitably bringing that to work. And I know sometimes for leaders, dealing with emotions in the workplace is challenging. Traditionally, we're told that you should leave emotions at the door before coming to work. But honestly, these are challenging and unusual times. And I think what leaders really need to know is that when employees are feeling stressed out and anxious and worried, they really just want to know that you care. And they appreciate that you may not have all the answers. So especially when you don't have all the answers, simply asking someone, how are you? And listening to the answer really speaks volumes. And I think during these challenging times, people will remember how you make them feel. And if you make them feel that you care, that's really gonna go a long way. So again, ask, how are you? Simply listen to the answer. You don't need to solve any problems, but by listening and asking that question, you're showing that you care, and people will remember that. Well, I hope you got a lot out of these 5 simple questions to ask yourself and one to ask others that will really help you uncover, develop, and demonstrate skills that are essential to be an effective and inspiring leader during these difficult times. So questions that help you build your own resilience so that you can be emotionally available for others. Questions that help you be an inclusive leader so that you're bringing out the best in people and really bridging across differences. And questions that help to give you the courage to lean in and try new things, because certainly you're going to have to lead by example in that way for employees. What I want to leave you with is that these questions led to really super simple actions, really simple things that you can weave into your day-to-day leadership. You don't need big strategies. None of them cost money. And they're really impactful because they're seldom done. And sometimes it's the smallest things that can really have the biggest impact. When you show that you're authentic, you care about others, and you're willing to model behaviors that you expect in others. So I encourage you to try these 5 simple questions and follow the very simple tips that come with them. And I'm sure that by doing that, you will position yourself to be able to lead with optimism and positivity and compassion and empathy and inclusion during these difficult times, which really, really demand it. So if you're looking for more easy to implement tips that you can easily weave into your day-to-day leadership to be a more inspiring, authentic, optimistic, and inclusive leader, definitely reach out to me. You can follow me on LinkedIn at Beth Ridley. Visit my website at thebrimfullife.com. And if you do implement these tips, I really, really want to hear from you. How did they work? Let me know. Send me an email or message me on LinkedIn.